Hello friends, this is Darkscream and welcome back to another Crafting for Dummies. This time we're going to take a look at the different methods for farming Scourgestones, because there's a few different ways. This ties into the previous videos on farming out naxxramas and Scholomance and getting all that unlocked. Assuming you have, then you're probably in a position like I am. You're very hungry for tokens. And you know what's nice is when you're working on a video and then Blizzard does a little hotfix that buffs the thing you were working on, so that's pretty cool. So essentially we've got better drops on the dented raider tokens. This includes now not only just a little more of the stuff that we were going there for, right? But apparently rare items were prevented from dropping as well. I've heard reports that some of these can be nice super items, super rare transmog type stuff from the old world, so that'll make an interesting video later in the week. Now, it should go without saying, the most efficient way you're going to farm these tokens is just by clearing naxxramas over and over and over again on your alts. There's a few different methods we could look at here, though. You can do a full clear, including the trash, right? So you kill all your trash, and you loot that, and you get the spider silk, and the cloth, and some of the BOEs. That'll take you a lot more time, especially dealing with the inventory management, right? Another method you can use is simply looting the bosses, and maybe you still grab the frozen runes that appear beside the bosses, right? Because a full clear of naxxramas will get you 15 Corruptors, Scourgestones, the big ones that turn into a token. However, there's a couple bosses in Naxx that just take forever, right? You've got your military wings, so you've got like Gothic the Harvester, right? He'll just waste 5 minutes of your time. Kel'Thuzad will also just waste 5 minutes of your time. So you could just stop at Gothic and not go any further, but you'd be robbing yourself of a bunch of tokens. Or would you? Because if you have a lot of characters, then really what it's about is how many characters can you get through in an hour, how many tokens can you earn per hour, what kind of gold and resources would you earn in that hour. So I set out to answer some questions about farming these zones a few different ways. Now before we begin, I've got a few tips for you. You're going to want to get a speed flask, known as the Charged Phial of Alacrity. That'll give you a good chunk of speed. Any amount of speed helps, this will cut down your times. Likewise, if you can get a speed set, Aberrus green BOEs are great for this. Stacking up those little percents of speed will save you time. And we all know certain classes are better than others at doing these types of farms, right? But you'd be surprised what your class or spec has to offer. Take a look at all the different specs for your class. No matter what character you're playing, there's probably some mobility talents with hopefully some instant cast AoE abilities. That'll really give you the best experience for this type of farm. Another tip I have for you is do a quick price scan on the auction house before you go in, so you have the current knowledge of what everything is worth. And last but not least, you're going to want to clear out some bag space. If you do plan on looting, you're going to need a lot of bag slots to hold that loot. There's a few things that stack up well, like the cloth and the spider silk, the frozen runes and the Wartorn Scraps are the main things you're looking for here. Last thing I want to mention for BOEs, the Naxx specific BOEs aren't worth very much at all at this point since they've been farmed out so much. However, keep your eyes peeled for Northrend specific BOEs, the more general ones, because they can still be worth a pretty penny. So let's take a look at Naxx. Now, looting itself is a topic, but you've got a few options. You could loot everything, and your bags might fill up. You can vendor at Zacket in the middle anytime you pass through one of the wings. You could loot nothing, and the game will actually send you an in-game mail with the Scourgestones as well as the boss drops only. Or you can do picky looting and just pick out things that you want. Unless I'm on a farm character with totally empty bags, I'm usually going to go with number 2 or number 3. If you do want to pick up some loot, here's my recommendations. I'll put them on screen here. The big ones are the raw coin, actually, surprisingly valuable, as well as the Wartorn Scraps and the frozen runes at the time, although the prices on them are going down. I think it's worth keeping an eye out, as I mentioned, for the generic BOEs, not the Naxx specific ones, but the Northrend and classic ones that can pop up. As well, the cloth and spider silks aren't super valuable, but because they stack really high, I find they're worth grabbing. They won't fill your bags, you can get a lot. And finally, they're pretty rare, but once in a while you'll get get a lockbox, those are usually worth picking up as well. If you do plan on looting, I recommend doing it on 25-man, there's just a lot more mobs. If you're not looting, I recommend doing it on 10-man because there's less mobs, so they're easier to avoid. Either way, it's the same amount of Scourgestone. Now, it's unlikely we'll hit the 10 instance reset cap for Naxx, so the goal here is simply to compare full clearing with loot against, like, speed clearing without looting much or at all. Playing out on screen is my full clear run on my Paladin on 25-man. It's not the fastest class, but it wasn't bad. I had double Divine Steed and the 30% speed bonus from Blessing of Freedom, plus about 20% speed from my gear and the flask. This type of run takes me between 20 and 30 minutes depending on the character and their setup. It'll loot between 1 and 2,000 raw gold, depending if you vendor junk or not. It also gets a bunch of resources. They were valued at about 10,000 gold at the time of recording. Of course, the prices are going down, so I'll just put the actual materials I got on screen here. Looting only the 15 bosses and not the trash or runes, you can get the run down to about 15 or 20 minutes, but without the trash drops you make a lot less gold. Boss gold will only add up to around 500-600 gold. Still, if you're going to repeat the run 10 or 20 times, that'll add up. Next, for the no loot run, I ran on my DK with a similar setup for movement abilities and speed bonus, so it'd be kind of comparable to the Paladin. For the skip run, we're going to try and skip as much trash as possible. We're going to go up, kill Vesuvius, then turn around, go back to the middle, kill Sapphiron, then we'll leave. We'll skip Gothic, 4 Horsemen, and Kel'Thuzad. We'll lose 3 Corruptor Scourgestones this way, but we'll save a bunch of time. This type of run only takes me between 10 and 15 minutes, and you can probably beat that time with a good setup. You get almost nothing for gold and materials, and only 12 tokens for the weekly run, but you basically cut your time in half. If you have a lot of characters to run through Naxx, you won't be doing recipes, you don't need gold, you just want tokens to roll for the tier 3 stuff, this is probably the method for you. Doing some quick napkin math, the first method will yield you anywhere between 30 and 45 tokens per hour. You'll lock out 2 or 3 characters per hour. You'll get 3 to 6,000 raw gold per hour, plus a lot of materials and BOEs you can try to sell on the auction house. The second method I described, the partial loot, you'll get about 45 to 60 tokens per hour. You'll lock out 3 to 4 characters per hour. You get somewhere between 1.5 to 2,000 raw gold per hour and some materials if you choose to grab them. And for the third method, just kind of speed running, blasting, and only looting the bosses, 48 to 72 tokens per hour, locking out 4 to 6 characters per hour, makes actually around the same 1,500 to 2,000 gold per hour. And of course, along the way, there's plenty of transmogs and pets and things to collect if you're into that sort of thing. Personally, I think any of these methods are fine. It just depends how many characters you've got, how much time you want to spend, and what you're trying to collect or sell, if you're trying to make gold or just do the collection stuff. Although the raw gold numbers aren't super impressive, it does add up over time. The real money, at least right now, has been in the materials. If you're looting, you get the Wartorn Scraps and the Frozen Runes. The prices are going down over time. It's also worth mentioning, I know some people skip looting entirely, they don't even touch the bosses just to save a few seconds more. I'm not a huge fan of that method since you lose the 40 or 50 gold per boss, and like I've mentioned a few times, it adds up, and really over the course of the run, it's not going to take more than a minute or so. Hopefully though, this helps you decide how to approach Naxx farming for yourself. Next up, we're going to take a look at Stratholme. Maybe you don't have a ton of characters, maybe you don't have an alt army ready to go, or maybe you have some other desire to go to Stratholme, right? I will say Stratholme isn't the best for gold right now if you're farming Scourgestones, because the best money in Stratholme is going to be the Righteous Orbs over on the living side. Well, those living guys don't drop Scourgestones for us. That said, there are 2 methods you can use to farm Stratholme. You're either going to do a full clear and kill all the bosses, or you're going to do like a Baron Mount run. So why don't we run those and compare them? Alright, so first we'll start with the full boss clear. Let's see how long this takes. So Hearthsinger and Timmy are 2 bosses that we need to kill. Next we'll do the Unforgiven. Alright, we're about 1:30 in, we've got 3 Invader's Scourgestones, so that's a third of a token. Kill the Magistrate, get another Scourgestone. From there you go into the 3 Scourge Ziggurats and kill the 3 bosses there, that's 3 more Scourgestones. We're 4 minutes in, we're gonna get to the Baron room. Little efficiency tip, you can kind of throw an AoE. I like to wait for the first few and then drop it on the next ones. I can just go and walk here and wait for these guys to spawn, and then we have Baron. Did we get the mount? We did not. So we got 9 Invader Scourgestones, or 0.9 tokens, in about 5.5 minutes. There's not much loot here beyond essences of Undeath and maybe some cloth, checking for high value transmogs, but we had a chance at Baron dropping his sword and his mount, although of course he didn't. You could loot everything and vendor it for a bit more coin though, as when you Deathgate or Dreamwalk out, you'll be stuck waiting for a little cooldown for the ability to come back, so then you have a chance to sit there and vendor this stuff. So that does make this farm take about 6 minutes in total time. That's just about perfect, as you could do a perfect clean 10 per hour. Still, I was curious what type of efficiency we'd see if we just did the Baron side. So this time we're going to try going through the service entrance. We're going to open the gate, pop a sprint, kill the boss, and then pretty much rush right to Baron. And we're at Baron. 4 minutes. Did we get the sword or the mount? Sweet, we got the sword. Now we already had this transmog, but man, it feels good to get that again. This time we got 6 Invader Scourgestones, or 0.6 tokens, and a hit of dopamine from looting the rare sword. It took about 4 minutes. This isn't as efficient for your 10 lockouts per hour, however, leaving 20 minutes to spare is an alright option. You could take a break, do some crafting, manage your auctions. That's even about the right amount of time to swap to an alt in the Dragon Isles and squeeze in a time rift while your instance cap resets. This method may be of interest for those who need a slice of time back in the hour, for whatever reason. Still, I've got a feeling neither run is going to be as good for pure Scourgestones as the other dungeon option. Let's take a look at the old Scholomance. So once again, we've got 2 routes we're going to test. One, we're going to do all 13 bosses, and we're not going to farm trash too hard, but if we end up aggroing it and killing it, we may as well loot it. And the second run, we're just going to do a 10 boss rush. There's 3 bosses that we can skip, so we'll do those runs and compare them. If we aggro any mobs, we're not going to stop and kill them till the boss, and then we'll loot everything. 30 seconds, we're going downstairs. This part you could skip, I believe. Jandis Barov down for our first Scourgestone. We grab Rattlegore for another Scourgestone and the key. Get 2 more up here from these 2 guys. 1 more from Ras Frostwhisper. And then of course we have the 6 bosses in the side rooms where you have to clear the trash, and the boss, and then Gandling spawns. Then we can take the Blood of the Innocents back to the front of the dungeon and summon Kirtanos the Herald. That'll make 13 bosses. So, how'd we do? We ended up picking up a couple of lock boxes and getting a couple hundred cloth, a couple of Essence of Undeath. I'd say we made like, I don't know, 200 gold. Not a lot. We did, however, make 13 Invaders Scourgestones, so that's 1.3 tokens. Took me about 6 or 7 minutes, so you could do that full 10 times in an hour if you're a little more optimal than I am. That'd get you 13 tokens an hour. Alright, round 2, we're gonna skip. Skip. So we're going to skip Jandis and go right to Rattlegore, get the key, and head right to the viewing room. We'll still do the 2 bosses there. We'll skip Ras Frostwhisper. We'll head right to the end boss room with the 6 mini bosses and Gandling, and then we'll leave without summoning Kirtanos. If you're a blacksmith, you can keep the Blood of the Innocents and use it for crafting too. So we didn't loot much, but we got 10 Invader Scourgestones, 1 token's worth. And the run only took about 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes if you count the death gating time like we discussed earlier. So this would be another method that isn't efficient for your hourly instance lockouts, but it does leave you a slice of time to do something else, maybe a time rift. And now the fun part. We've done the runs, we've gathered the data, let's put it all side by side and draw some conclusions. The best token per hour appears to be the Naxx Skip Clear. If all you care about is getting Argent Dawn tokens or Death's bargaining chips, this is the way to go. But you will get less tokens per character, lock out all your characters faster, so if you want to do this, you're going to need a heck of an alt army. Best gold per hour is Naxx Full Clears, and I wasn't doing the outside ring either with all the trash out there. There's more money to be had if what you really want to do is squeeze out some gold from all the tier 3 hype. The raw gold is not huge, but not negligible, especially when repeatedly clearing, but most of your gold is going to come from selling the crafting materials, the scraps, the runes, or maybe a rare transmog if you're really lucky. If you're fully locked out of Naxx on every alt, but you still really want to grind more Scourgestones, the best farm is old Scholo Full Clears. If you're fully locked out, and you want to do quicker runs, get some time back in your hour, you can do either Skip Run, but the Scholomance one is better for Scourgestones. Strat Home runs aren't the best at anything, but you can get Scourgestones while you're grinding for the Baron Mountain transmogs if you still need them. And I didn't test live side. It can be decent for gold making, but there's no Scourgestones there, so I skipped that side for this video. Well, this was a more thorough examination of classic dungeons than I ever thought I'd do. If you've got any thoughts or tricks for farming these out, let us know in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Hopefully you found this one useful. If so, remember that like button to help it spread to more people, and subscribe if you'd like to stick around. Again, my name is Darkscreen. Thanks for watching. Peace.